Machiavelli once wrote, "He who understands human nature holds the keys to power." And nowhere is that more true than in the battlefield of attraction. Most men fight for women's attention like beggars in a crowded market, desperate, predictable, and easily ignored. But the men who understand these 5 emotional weak points play a completely different game. Now, this is not about manipulation. It's not about tricking or hurting women. It's about understanding the emotional currents that have shaped female psychology for centuries, so you can navigate them with skill, respect, and confidence. These aren't pickup lines. These aren't magic tricks. They're deep-rooted instincts buried in the human mind. Patterns that, once understood, tilt the entire board in your favor. Used wisely, they can make you unforgettable. Used recklessly, they can destroy you. Let's begin. 1. The validation drought. If you only remember one thing from this video, remember this. Most women are not addicted to attention. They are chemically wired to respond to it. Every time a woman receives a compliment, a DM, a lingering glance, her brain releases dopamine, the same chemical triggered by sugar, gambling, and even certain drugs. It's a reward signal. And here's the Machiavellian insight. Like any drug, the high fades when the dosage is constant. This is where 99% of men fail. They flood a woman with validation, morning texts, heart eye emojis, "You're so beautiful" on repeat, thinking they're building connection. In reality, they're destroying the very spark they're trying to ignite. Because the more predictable the praise, the weaker the hit. It's like drinking the same cup of coffee every morning. Eventually, it barely wakes you up. Here's what the high-value man does differently. He treats validation like currency. Every compliment is an investment, not a reflex. He knows that if he hands it out without thought, its value crashes. This is the validation drought, not complete starvation, that breeds insecurity and resentment, but a deliberate reduction in supply. Think of it like rain in the desert. If it never rains, life withers. If it rains every day, the ground floods. But when it rains just enough, every drop is treasured. And here's where the power multiplies. When you do give validation, it must be earned and specific. Don't say, "You always look good." That's lazy and forgettable. Say, "That dress makes you look like you just walked out of a movie scene." Don't only compliment her looks. Notice her wit, her courage, her taste. This shifts you from just another admirer to the rare man who really sees her. Now let's be clear. This isn't about playing cold or making her chase endlessly. The Machiavellian mind understands balance. Too much drought and the relationship collapses. Too much rainfall and the thrill dies. The sweet spot? Roughly 70% approval, 30% mystery. Just enough warmth to make her feel secure, and just enough distance to make her crave more. Most men spend years chasing that balance by accident. The man who masters it deliberately never needs to chase. 2. The uncertainty switch. This is one of the cruelest paradoxes in female psychology. If you ask a woman what she wants in a man, she'll tell you security, stability, and certainty. But here's the part she won't say out loud. Complete certainty kills attraction faster than almost anything else. Why? Because of something psychologists call the Zeigarnik effect. The brain's obsession with unfinished stories. When every part of you is known, predictable, and neatly packaged, the story is complete. And when the story is complete, the mind stops turning pages. This is why so many men lose a woman's interest after winning her attention. At first, he's exciting. There are unknowns, surprises, energy. But then, he becomes accessible on demand, replying instantly, explaining every move, announcing every plan. She always knows where he is, what he's doing, what he's thinking. And that, ironically, removes the tension that makes desire thrive. Now let's be clear. This isn't about playing games, ghosting, or disappearing for days to make her miss you. That's amateur hour. This is about strategic disclosure. Think of your life as a gripping TV series. You reveal enough in each episode to keep her hooked, but you always leave something unanswered. You end the conversation with a hint, a tease, a door left half open. When she asks, "What are you doing today?" you don't give her a full itinerary. You say, "I had a meeting today that might change some things for me." And then you change the subject. Her mind will do the rest, spinning theories, imagining possibilities, staying invested. And here's the important part. Mystery only works if there's substance behind it. If you're just vague because you have nothing going on, she'll eventually sense the emptiness. True mystery comes from living a life so rich and multi-layered that she can't possibly know it all. From having projects, passions, connections, and ambitions that aren't all centered around her. The Machiavellian principle here is simple. Never let her read your entire map, not because you're hiding, but because a map with uncharted territory is far more exciting to explore. And just like with validation, this is about balance. If you're too uncertain, you breed mistrust. If you're too transparent, you kill the thrill. The sweet spot is keeping her secure enough to trust you, but curious enough to keep chasing the next chapter. A man who masters this doesn't just keep her attention. He makes her invest in discovering more. 3. The rivalry trigger. There's one emotional switch that almost every woman will deny exists, but if you observe closely, you'll see it everywhere. Nothing spikes a woman's interest more than knowing other women want the man she's with. It's not vanity. It's not immaturity. It's biology. For thousands of years, women competed, often silently, for the highest value men. And how did they identify those men? Not by the man's own claims, but by the fact that other women had already chosen him. It's an ancient form of social proof. If other women desire him, he must have qualities worth desiring. The modern mistake men make is trying to manufacture this in obvious, clumsy ways. Openly flirting with other women in front of her, constantly mentioning female friends, or bragging about options. That's not attractive. That's desperate theater. The Machiavellian move is much more subtle. You let your social value speak for itself. You build a life, a presence, and a character that naturally attracts interest, not because you're trying to provoke her, but because you become the kind of man women feel drawn to. This means you carry yourself with warmth and confidence in social settings. You're approachable without being overly available. When another woman laughs at your joke, you don't milk it or look for her reaction. You just continue being you. And here's the magic. When a woman sees that you could be with someone else, but choose her, her competitive instinct locks in. The desire shifts from having you to keeping you. But remember, this is a blade that cuts both ways. If you push it too far, you create paranoia and insecurity. If you underplay it completely, you remove the spark of competition that keeps her engaged. The balance is simple. She should feel chosen, but not guaranteed. She should feel secure in your loyalty, but aware that loyalty is a choice, not a prison. This is why high-value men rarely have to prove themselves. Their lives, full of purpose, achievement, and meaningful connections. Do the proving for them. The presence of other women in their orbit isn't an act. It's a side effect of their reality. A man who masters the rivalry trigger never has to chase, because once she realizes that other women see your value, she'll fight to make sure she doesn't lose it. 4. The emotional anchor. Most men think women want them to fix every problem. They hear about her bad day and instantly switch into problem-solving mode, offering solutions, advice, or ways to make it all better. It's well-intentioned, but it's also exactly why they fail. Because here's the truth. When a woman is overwhelmed, anxious, or upset, her deepest need isn't solutions. It's stability. She wants to know that while the ground under her is shaking, you are not. And this is where most men lose the game without realizing it. When she's stressed, they get stressed. When she's emotional, they get defensive. When she's afraid, they panic. In other words, they let her state control their state. A Machiavellian man does the opposite. He remains unshaken, not cold, not detached, present, but immovable. When she comes home frustrated, he doesn't mirror her frustration. He listens. He stays calm. He becomes the emotional equivalent of a lighthouse in a storm, unmoving no matter how violent the waves. And here's the thing. Being an emotional anchor doesn't mean dismissing her feelings or pretending nothing's wrong. It means creating a space where she can pour out everything without fear of you collapsing under the weight of it. Instead of jumping in with fixes, you say, "That sounds rough. Tell me more about what happened." You absorb the emotion without becoming infected by it. Women are biologically wired to seek stability in a partner. In ancient times, that stability meant food, protection, and shelter. Today, it often means emotional safety, knowing her man won't crumble under pressure. Machiavelli would call this mastering your own state, because power isn't about controlling every event, it's about controlling yourself when events try to control you. And here's where the deeper advantage comes in. Once a woman feels you as her emotional anchor, her loyalty deepens in ways words can't explain. Because in her mind, she's found something rare. A man she can lean on without fear that he'll break. The man who masters this doesn't just hold her attraction. He earns her respect. And respect is a currency that lasts far longer than infatuation. 5. The personalized code. This final weakness is the most advanced and the most dangerous because it's not universal. You can't apply it the same way to every woman and expect the same results. It's precision work. Every woman has her dominant emotional driver, the one thing that tugs at her harder than the rest. Some crave validation more than anything. Some thrive on mystery and uncertainty. Others are fueled by competition, constantly measuring themselves against other women. And here's where most men get it wrong. They run the same playbook on every woman. They give the same compliments, use the same tone, create the same patterns, and wonder why it stops working. The Machiavellian man does something entirely different. He watches. He listens. He studies the subtle tells in her words, her reactions, her questions. If she constantly asks, "What do you think of this outfit?" or lights up when you praise her, validation is her key. If she gets restless when she knows your exact routine or peppers you with questions about your future, uncertainty is her key. If she brings up other women, your exes, or bristles when another woman enters the picture, competition is her key. Once you find her primary driver, you don't slam it like a button. You press it with precision. A compliment here, a hint of mystery there, a subtle reminder of your options when needed. This is the personalized code, the tailored approach that makes her feel like you just get her in ways other men never have. Because you're not responding on autopilot. You're adapting in real time to her emotional language. But here's where ethics comes in. This isn't about exploiting her insecurities. It's about understanding her well enough to give her what she actually needs, while still holding your own boundaries and self-respect. When done with integrity, the personalized code deepens the connection while keeping attraction alive for the long term. When done recklessly, it becomes manipulation, and the fallout is brutal. Machiavelli would tell you, a prince who knows his people's desires can rule for decades. A prince who abuses them is overthrown. The same is true here. The goal isn't to win her for a week. It's to understand her so deeply that you can sustain desire without burning trust. Now you know the 5 emotional weaknesses that, according to Machiavellian strategy, can give you an almost unfair advantage. The validation drought, the uncertainty switch, the rivalry trigger, the emotional anchor, and the personalized code. Used with wisdom, they can make you unforgettable. Used without discipline, they will burn everything you build. So choose your path. Master yourself first, then master the game. Because when you understand her mind better than she does, you stop fighting for attention and start becoming the man she fights to keep.